Hello, welcome back. It's Mad V. So today is not going to be a regular review video or a fragrance video talking about anything particular. It is going to be maybe a wee bit on the drama side. I guess some of you might think so, maybe. And a PSA. What am I talking about? Well, I have an incredible passion, as most of you in this community do, of fragrances. I love fragrances. I love wonderful smells that you can bottle and wear. It's amazing. But today's video is going to be about my personal journey into this market per se. I was very curious as to how perfumery works, and I wanted to look into it, and so I did. I did my own research and I looked into how to produce fragrances. And in my journey, I realized it's not that hard, or is it? I was able to look into things like purchasing fragrance oils, perfumer's alcohol, bottles, labels. I came up with a really interesting theory slash hypothesis as to how some people or some companies do business on the internet. I kind of wanted to make this a video behind companies that talk about inspired fragrances or dupes of fragrances. It turns out that it's not that hard to do. There are two types of processes to make fragrances. The first is a person who specializes in mixing absolutes and special essential oils to make a master blend, aka a perfumer. The second is a process that is much simpler, and all it requires is you to do math and mix, not perfume or create a fragrance, but to mix perfume oil with perfumer's alcohol. Now the first one is a much longer process. It is a process that all perfumers that work in the industry or in perfumery or anything that has to do with developing a fragrance has to do. This process from beginning to end can take from 1 to 3 months. Now, when you're thinking about 1 to 3 months, you're like, wow, that's a long time. But from concept to actual finished product, it's not that bad. The reason why you would have to leave the master blend that you come up with for 1 to 3 months depends on a multitude of variables. Now, some of those variables include whether or not you're using synthetics, a mix of synthetics, or pure essential oils, or creating an absolute or tincture. The process usually takes a long time to make these tinctures or these absolutes, because it requires a distillation process usually. In utilizing these more natural methods, this is how perfumers come up with their master blends. Now you can look up how to make perfumes online. The process can be very, very expensive, and it can be very time consuming. So if that's something that you're really into, then you should probably go to perfume school and give that a shot. Now, making these absolutes and these master blends takes a lot of time and dedication and pure love for what it is that you're doing. It is an art. It is mastery. That's what it is. So if you're an artist in any way, then you probably have an understanding as to what the creative process of anything is, and you would have a little bit more of appreciation to all of the work and time and energy that went behind creating said fragrance. Now, the other side of this is mixing. You don't have to be a master perfumer to mix essential oils with alcohol. Now, I'm not talking about some bourbon or some rum. I am talking about perfumer's alcohol. Perfumer's alcohol is usually about 150 to 200 proof. So it's very concentrated, very sterile, very pure alcohol. And this is what is used to dilute the concentration of the fragrance oil. The fragrance mixing is mixing oils, fragrance oils. So these are oils that have already been blended and mixed by some other perfumer. You take this fragrance oil and you mix it into the perfumer's alcohol, and that is how you make that particular fragrance. It's very easy once the fragrance oil is already made. There's really nothing else left. You just need to do a little bit of math to know what kind of concentration that you're going for. If you're going for an eau de cologne, an eau de toilette, an eau de parfum, or an extrait de parfum. So usually they make an eau de toilette, it should be a 4-to-1 ratio. And all that means is per 1 part of fragrance oil, you're gonna have 4 parts of perfumer's alcohol. To make an eau de parfum, it's usually 3-to-1, meaning 1 part fragrance oil to 3 parts alcohol. And to get an extrait de parfum, which is incredibly dense, very thick, very oily, you're looking at a 2-to-1 ratio. Again, so 1 part fragrance oil to 2 parts perfumer's alcohol. And so in this process, all you do is when you blend them together, you let them cure for 3 days. That's it. The turnaround is 3 days. Not 3 months, 3 days. And so that's all there is to it. So if you wanted to go about getting a fragrance that you really like, that somebody is duped into a fragrance oil, you can basically make your own perfume. You could basically do that and kind of get away with it. Now, is it gonna be perfect? Are there gonna be imperfections? Sure. It's gonna take some time for you to get used to how to mix it and how to really develop a really good perfume. But the first process is much more meticulous. Are you gonna use pure absolutes, balsams? Are you gonna use tinctures? Are you gonna get expensive sourced materials? This is all part of the perfumery process. So that is why making an actual perfume, in terms of making your master blend and the whole process behind it, is extremely time consuming and very hard. Unless you have a lot of experience doing this, this is something that you probably should stay away from. As we always say, leave it to the experts. So fragrance oil blending or mixing is a much easier way for you to get what you want at a much cheaper price. So I just want to throw it out there that this is in no way any kind of accusation for any company. It's just really an observation that I've made based on my own research and speaking to other people in this industry, other perfumers and people that are really involved with the fragrance community and making fragrances, period. And what I'm telling you is not hard at all. It's just going to require a little bit of time and research on the internet for you to journey into this. This was something that I was considering doing, but when I realized how much time was gonna go into it, I just chose not to do it. And furthermore, I wanna say that there's nothing wrong with the companies or any company that does this. Again, not sure if they are doing this at all, just a sort of like an educated guess and an observation. But there's nothing wrong with doing that. Most people in the fragrance community might wanna obtain really high, expensive fragrances, and they don't have the money or the funds or the means to do so. So they'll gravitate towards something that either smells exactly like it, or they'll go and check out places that make clones or inspired expressions of those fragrances. Some of you might already assume of the companies that I am talking about. I am not going to accuse anyone of anything because I really don't know. This is what I assume. So I did a little math and I broke down basically how cheap it would be to make your own cologne, your own perfume from already made fragrance oils that you can purchase. So I'm gonna break this down really easily, and it's actually going to be up on the screen as well as I'm talking about it. That way you can kind of follow along and it's not as confusing, because I was kind of confused even when I started doing it. It took a little bit of time for me to sort of break this down so that I can present this to you in a way that would be very understandable. Now, probably some of you know this already, so I might be preaching to the choir, and if that's the case, either keep watching because it's entertaining or go on. So, to purchase a fragrance oil, a master blend that has already been made, whether it be with synthetics or essential oils, probably are always with synthetics for the price that I'm about to tell you. So the retail value for these fragrance oils varies depending on how much you want to buy. So I think the biggest they sell is 100 ml of pure fragrance oil. And the price that I found for this was $45 US for 100 milliliters of fragrance oil. And that is at retail, so that's not even at cost, which a company would probably get it much cheaper than that. Next would be the perfumer's alcohol. Now, you could use Everclear. You could find that even at a liquor store. I think it's 150 proof, and I believe it's about $20 for 500 milliliters. Then we're gonna look at bottle prices. So this is like where it gets kind of obviously up to you in terms of the aesthetics, right? If you want something simple and square, or if you want something pretty and with bling on it, well then that's the option that you have. But obviously prices will vary. So I went with a very basic 1 1 ounce, that's 30 milliliter bottle, spray bottle. So what I found was 180 bottles for $50. Then next we have to talk about labeling, if that's something indeed that you want to do, which you would probably want to have if you were trying to resell. And labeling can vary depending on what printer you're using, the paper you're using, toner, all those things fall into play in terms of pricing for that. And what I found was a price range anywhere between 20 cents to 50 cents per 30 milliliter bottle. Now what I'm going to tell you might blow your mind, or might not, you might not even care. What's interesting about this is that out of that list that I presented to you, so what I found out was when you are using a 100 milliliter bottle of fragrance alcohol, that broke down to approximately 13 1 ounce bottles. So for the price of 100 milliliters of fragrance oil, you can get 13 1 ounce bottles. And for the perfumer's alcohol, you'd use about 220 milliliters out of the 500, so almost half, so a little less than half, to make 13 bottles, and 7.5 milliliters of fragrance oil. Again, we're doing a 3-to-1 ratio for an eau de parfum. So let's break this down by bottle. So when you're breaking down exactly the cost per bottle, this was just a rough estimate that I came up with. I would probably have to go over it again to make sure that this is all correct if I were to actually do this. This is a rough estimate, and of course prices may vary depending on what you want to use. So per 1 ounce bottle, I calculated about $1.47 of perfumer's alcohol. I calculated $3.46 of fragrance oil, 30 cents for the bottle, and 50 cents for labeling. So when I added all this up, it came out to $5.73 a bottle. You can make a fragrance that you like for $5.73. So if I were to break this down for the 13 bottles, because remember, 100 milliliters of fragrance oil is going to be used into 13 1 ounce 30 milliliter bottles. So the price breakdown is as follows. The perfumer's alcohol times 13 at $1.47, you get $19.11 for 13 bottles. The fragrance oil at $3.46 times 13, you get $45. Depending on the bottle you get, but the one that I chose at 30 cents a bottle times 13 came out to $3.90. And labeling, depending on the paper, was about 50 cents a bottle times 13 came out to $6.50. Now adding all this up, it comes out to $74.51 for 13 bottles of a fragrance that you choose. So this brings me to my main point. You might go to some of these sites and think that they're giving you an interpretation of a much more expensive or even designer fragrance and call it their interpretation or their inspiration for this fragrance. Some of the places will label them as the actual niche fragrance, but then if you read their disclaimers, it'll say, we are in no way related or associated with said company. These are just inspired expressions or interpretations of these fragrances. And this is where I come to my hypothesis, to my conspiracy theory. These companies that are charging you anywhere between $14.99 all the way up to $60 for 1 ounce of perfume. If what I think is happening is correct, woo, they are making a profit. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I am not trying to bring anybody down. I'm not trying to bash or badmouth any company, because that's not what I'm doing here. I am just trying to shed some light on an option that you might want to take. So again, I don't think what they're doing is wrong. If indeed this is what they're doing, I just would like a little bit more transparency in them saying, hey, we're just blending oils and who cares? I mean, if you want the fragrance and you don't want to pay the top dollar for it, then do it. You're gonna do it anyways, right? I mean, people, they've got great business and there's nothing wrong with their business model in terms of how they package, how they're selling. I would just like to see, if this is true, more transparency, because this is the age of the internet and everybody's gonna find out the truth anyways, just the way it is. Or somebody's gonna whistle blow the process. But I am just a passionate person about fragrances and I thought it would be pretty cool to kind of break this down. My pricing came up to $74.51 for 13 bottles. Now, let's hit right in the middle, $15.60. Let's just say $55. That's not the middle, but let's just say $55. $55 is what they're charging you, times 13 bottles. Comes out to $715. Do you see where I'm going with this? They're making $715. Of which, if you subtracted the amount that it costs to make this perfume, which is $74.51, you are making a $650 profit. It is amazing. They're killing it. They're crushing it. There's nothing, I'm not even hating. That's just awesome. That's great. But be worried that that's what it is. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's real perfumery because I think that the turnaround period for these fragrances are really quick. 3 days and you'll have a new fragrance, or 3 days, hey, you know, I'll get this out to you. I'll have it ready in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks, if you ever have gone into understanding what perfumery is, it does not take that short amount of time to create it from start to finish. From start to finish, it's a very long, complicated process when you're dealing with perfumes. Now, there are niche clone houses that we all know. They are actual perfumers. The only difference is when they are trying to make some sort of clone of an already made fragrance or niche house. This is the process that they are most likely taking. They, meaning niche clone houses that we see and that we've bought and that we bought into, and they're all wonderful and I love them and I use them and I have no qualms about it. They use a process where they have equipment that can sort of sniff out or gather all of the data and percentages and ingredients broken down to their synthetics of the fragrance that they want to duplicate. Now they may add a little, take away a little, do a little extra or something just to give it their spin, maybe, but this is the process. So then they do have perfumers that mix those synthetics and create an actual perfume, an actual fragrance from scratch. And yes, that does take the same process from 1 to 3 months. It is a tough and complicated process, which is why they have perfumery school. Not that you couldn't be self-taught, you certainly could, but you would probably be better off if you went to school for it. Think of it like being a chemist. A chemist needs to be good and know math. Perfumery, I'm sure, deals with a lot of that because as you can see, you have to do math to figure out ratios and quantities and what you're gonna put in and how much volume that's gonna take up, or else it'll be too much. But master blends that are created take a little bit more time to cook, if you will, and you need to swirl it and all kinds of stuff. It's just a very intricate process. But making a perfume from already mixed fragrance oils and just putting it and diluting it into perfumer's alcohol is not really a hard process, and it's not time consuming really in relation to an actual perfumer and what they do. Obviously what I'm breaking down is not an exact dollar amount, as you also have to factor in shipping if they don't charge for shipping, but if they do charge for shipping, well then you don't have to factor that in because you're paying for it. But there's a lot of things that go into the cost of making these things, and this is just like a rough approximation so that you can see how easy it is and how much some of these people are profiting. Again, it's not criminal, it's not even something to look down upon. I think it's great. I think it offers cheaper alternative solutions to people who cannot afford these other fragrances, or if they want to just smell and see what those fragrances smell like. But be wary that they can kind of be a hot, greasy mess. And by that I mean literal greasy mess. Like you spray, the nozzle gets clogged, you stain your clothes, it's an oil slick. And it's happened because I have purchased from many of these places and I was very confused as to why that happened. For the price that you have to pay for some of them, it can be a problem. If you're paying upwards $45 to $50, you're paying upwards of that for a 1 ounce bottle of oil that's not well blended, that can be a problem. Now you're talking about money that you could spend on an actual perfume, be it retail or online retailers in the gray market. You could find things, or splits. So this is just kind of an informative video, and I just wanted to kind of share it with you all and see what you think about it. I find this very intriguing for a multitude of reasons. I mean, I'm an artist, I'm a singer, and for me, the creative process in anything artistic is very intriguing, whether it be visual arts, whether it be olfactory arts, as perfumery is, whether it be singing or musical arts. It's just fascinating to me, and I love to see the creative process behind anything artistic. So in conclusion, I just wanted to kind of bring this to light. I did get a couple of DMs and comments asking about this sort of thing, and I have told people straight up, look, if you want a cheap alternative to a fragrance that you can't afford, then these places are probably the best place to start if you want to smell them. If not, get your nose on them at a store and leave. I feel that this would be helping the fragrance community because you guys would be able to now have options. But they have those oils out there, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't, Google is your best friend. Do some research. Now that I have some knowledge and information about how actual perfumery is made or created, it just kind of supports a little bit more of my hypothesis from some of these companies. Again, it's not a bad thing. What they're doing is not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. I would probably do it too if I understood this and wanted to go into it and make some money. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, the question lies on you and whether or not you want to continue to spend your money that way. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, I have to reiterate this so that nobody takes offense, because you people get so offensive. Everybody's so sensitive. Don't be so sensitive. There's nothing wrong with talking about this openly. I think it's very informative and just something really good for you to know generally. Alright, so I hope you liked this video. It was just an informative video, sort of like a PSA, and I just wanted to share with the community and hopefully shine some light on maybe some questions that you all may have or have asked in the past. I hope this clears things up. So thank you for tuning in again here at the Beauty Lover TV, and this is Mad V. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. If you like this video, then like it. And comment down below, please. I'm really eager to hear what you have to say about this, what you think about this entire topic. And it's not taboo. We should be able to express and talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's no accusations here. Nobody's accusing anybody. I suspect this is what's going on. I could be wrong. Maybe I am wrong. But doing a little digging, this is what I think is going on. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Go on and enjoy these companies and other dupe companies and niche companies. Enjoy what you like. Don't let anybody tell you what you should wear. Don't let anybody tell you, well, if you want to wear Creative Ventus, just buy Creative Ventus. Well, you don't have to. If you like Club the New Intense Man, then use it. Thank you very much. Deuces.